goodness, I'm seeing so many people, new people who I haven't had a chance to meet yet, and then people from all chapters of my adult life here represented. Hello, beautiful. So thank you all for coming and sharing in this, what I thought was gonna be a wet weekend day, but we lucked out, so yay us. And thank you all for coming to share this weekend afternoon with me. I also want to extend a thanks to Lynn-Ann Polite and who together with the staff here at the Vashon Center for the Arts Gallery exceeded my every expectation about what an exhibit of my journal pages could possibly look like. So when I came in and I saw it, it just totally took my breath away because I just left my work and I said, now it's your turn. I'll let you do your art. I won't give you any instructions. And then I walked in on the opening night and really I needed a moment because it was just exquisite. I also want to acknowledge that I am here as part of the gallery's programming for Black History Month. And when we first met and had that love fest back in the corner over there, you know, we had some open and honest conversations about this whole issue. And when Lynn-Ann expressed an interest in showing my work for February, I was very moved because when curators are looking to showcase the work of Black artists, mine is not necessarily the art that first comes to mind. So for that, I am very grateful to Lynn-Ann. I'm grateful to be able to share my work with everyone in this gorgeous setting. I'm grateful for our collaboration, which has been an absolute dream. And I am also thankful that we have this opportunity to invite folks to think expansively and inclusively about what Black art also can be. So, yeah. So my thoughts about today is that I will just talk a little bit, and by a little bit, I'm probably 20 minutes-ish, 30 minutes maybe, about how I came to these practices. First of writing, and then of art making, in particular my journal pages, and then and sharing a little bit about how certain books that helped me deepen into those practices and what that opened up for me. And then most of the rest of the time we have together, I would love for it to be Q&A, conversation, because that's the stuff that I really love. So if that's okay with folks, we'll just jump in with that. Oh, and another thing is this is my first time getting to talk about my daily practice. And so usually I like to just talk off the cuff, but I have my little crutch of my laptop here, and so I'm gonna be referring to my notes quite a bit during this talk. So, but the first thing I would like to do is ask you, and I want to think really openly and expansively about creative practices. What are the things that you do that allow you to sort of like really heighten your senses, let you unwind, unplug, tune in, and sort of really sort of just tap into that vast well of creativity that exists all around us? What are the things you do? And we're not talking about fine art here. We're talking about like the things that you do, what brings you joy? What wakens your senses? Yes? Long walks. Beautiful. Yep.
Noticing people's gardens.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate other people's art because it's not a skill I have. Mm-hmm. Yoga. Beautiful. Meditating. Mm-hmm. Were you going to see art? Yeah. Yep.
Singing to my horse.
Oh, that's beautiful. Gets you focused and gets you inspired. Yes. That is beautiful. Spending time with the people you love reminds you what makes life worth living, right? Absolutely. And it's something that I think, especially now, we don't take for granted when we get to be in physical space with people like that. Yeah?
I have eye cancer, so I was worried that I wouldn't be able to see anything or pay anything or be creative after living with it. So I decided I should notice what's in my own yard. So once a week, every Saturday, I put on my Facebook a backyard buffet, which is not always a buffet. Sometimes it's just stuff I see on the
I love your backyard bouquets.
Every Saturday for
Whoa. I didn't realize it was that long, Margaret. That's beautiful. They are arresting. They're absolutely beautiful. I'm familiar. Some are dumb, some turn out, you know, yeah, I totally get it. Yes.
Well, I would add to the walking, I like to walk in the forest. The forest makes me relax
Yeah.
and sort of open up.
Yeah. Forest bathing. Yeah, I heard someone say forest bathing. Yes.
I think both at work and in the nonprofit stuff, but I think putting together people who are really passionate about it and are going to move the agenda forward and putting them together and watching us all work together collaboratively is really.
I love that. I mean, it's like creatively curating, like who's coming together in that space to move you forward. I mean, that is absolutely what we're talking about too. It is, creativity can take so many different forms, right? So as we're having this conversation and as I'm talking specifically about art and writing, I want you to hold on to the things that you said. You know what I mean? Because what I'm talking about here is exactly what you guys mentioned. But also considering what it looks like to bring a certain level of intention and purpose to what it is that you're already doing that will allow you to deepen into this practice and you know, ritualize it and really appreciate what else is going on in that room when you're making those things happen. So, okay, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about my writing, which I started when I was 7. I was facing a very difficult situation. My dad is a diplomat and he was stationed in Sierra Leone in the late 70s, early 80s for 2 years. And we all agreed as a family that the best thing for me to do during that time would be to attend boarding school in England. So I was in England all by myself at the age of 7 with no family. Everyone else was in West Africa. And it was hard because I was left in the care of someone who was not awesome. And so, but luckily my mom gave me a nice Snoopy diary. And so I started writing, basically for my own survival, right? I just started writing so that I could see myself reflected back at me from some surface in a world where I was not seeing myself represented anywhere and where there wasn't a whole lot of space for me. And so I was carving out that space in my journal. And there was no rhyme or reason to it. I wrote when I needed to. Sometimes I'd write half a page, sometimes I'd write 6 pages, sometimes I'd write in the morning or the night or underneath my sheets or whenever I could like get in like, you know, some time with my journal. Over time, I learned how to write stream of consciousness. And that really unlocked something for me. It was like unlocking a superpower because suddenly I'm writing, but my writing is showing me and teaching me things about myself that I didn't already know. Right? So it was revealing truths to me that I wasn't even aware of, and so that to me was very eye-opening. But it wasn't until I was in my late 20s that someone said, hey, you write daily. Have you ever heard of this book? Julia Cameron, Artist's Way. Have you, okay, seeing a lot of nods. Anyone not familiar with this book? Okay, awesome. I will tell you about it. So the thing that was very interesting to me about getting turned on to her book was that writing was already something that I'd been doing for 18, 20 years. I had a regular sort of, like it was a regular part of my life. But she offered me a framework and a context for thinking about why writing daily is important. What it opens up for you, what it unlocks for you. And so I took my writing, which I was doing anyway, and I ritualized it. I started writing only in the mornings, as soon as I woke up. I wrote 3 pages every day. Stream of consciousness, no more, no less. If I was mid-sentence at the end of the 3rd page, that's it. You know what I mean? Like dot, 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 and whatever. Like, so it was just, I became very, it just became a part of who I was. And, let me see, oh, I jumped ahead here. So yeah, it was like retrofitting this thing that I was already doing. And here's a few things that it opened up for me when I added this level of intention to my writing practice. The first thing is that it clears my mind. It clears my mind. Every morning I wake up and I empty the contents of my brain out on the page, like I get it out of my head and down on the page and I let it go. Shorthand in my head, I call it getting it down and out. So that's all I need to do is just just empty it out. And what it does is it lightens the cognitive load that I then carry into my day, right? Because all of the to-do lists, all of the planning, all of the ruminating, all of the regrets, all of that noise that is otherwise in my head clogging everything, it just gets it all out. And it allows me to show up more fully present and available and awake and aware. It keeps me accountable. This is a big thing because one of the things I do in my journal is like, oh, and I got to do this today and this today and this today. And if I'm writing the same thing day in, day out, oh, hey, it's 5 days in, I still haven't done my taxes. You know what I mean? Like, or it's like tough conversations that I need to have, or it is, like it just is an unrelenting mirror that shows me to me, and I can't escape it and I can't hide from it. It forces me to show up and do the things I say I'm gonna do. It keeps the emotional channels open. This is especially true. I mean, one of the books that I've been really into, they talk about how emotion is energy in motion. I love that. Emotion is energy in motion. I think about this especially when it comes to dealing with hard emotions, right? Whether it's grief, whether it's rage, whether we feel like we've been done wrong, all of those things that can really make you tight in your gut. We are incredibly resilient as humans. We are made to withstand pain and motion. It's the pain that gets stuck, or that we ignore, or that we try to numb out. That's what will be our undoing. But we can withstand a remarkable amount of pain in motion just so long as you keep it moving through you. So this is one of the things that writing allows me to do, is it allows me to keep those channels open. And so let's say I'm going through a situation that's really hard and really challenging, really taxing, and I write about it. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, it gives me the space, right? In my journal, I can vent about it. I don't have to worry about hurting anyone's feelings. I can just speak my truth. And what I know is when I actually show up, what I bring forward into my life is clear and has been considered, and people aren't getting my raw, reactive responses. It's actually been processed, and what I'm bringing is what I mean, and I can stand behind what I'm saying. My journal is also a place where I can dream big. It clarifies my dreams, and it shows me the way forward. The thing that's amazing about my journal is like when I'm, welcome to my dream, by the way, because this is one of them. This is you are all characters in my awesome dream, and it was just, you know, I just when I have an idea, and I articulate it clearly to myself in my journal, it is amazing the ways the universe conspires to make it happen. Serendipity abounds once I become clear about what it is that I want. And the thing that writing in my journal does is when opportunities present themselves, the things that will like open the door and allow these dreams to happen will take me to the next step and the next step. I can see those opportunities for what they are. So in my mind, I think of myself as the supreme opportunist, because I can see opportunities when they present themselves and I'm like, wow, there it is. Hello, door, thank you, you know? Okay, so over time, I've come to see my writing as my sweet burden of responsibility. It is really the only way I've ever found to be able to circumvent my thinking, planning brain, and to be able to show up fully present in my life and to be able to tap into this vast well of creativity that exists. So thank you, Artist Way, because you know, it took what was already something that I was doing and it deepened it into a practice and a ritual. Okay, any questions so far? All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about art now, because art, my journey to art was a little bit more circuitous. I quit doing art in the 4th grade. Am I alone? Who's with me? Anyone? Okay. All right. So I quit doing art in the 4th grade because I internalized the lesson that people who do art are people who can draw. And I invite you to find any coherent drawing in any of these paintings. I will tell you now, you won't find it because it's not in my lexicon yet. I'm learning it now because I'm addicted to beginner's brain. But like, it's not part of what I do. And so I stopped doing art, but I still had a desire to express myself. So in addition to my writing, I did music for a very long time. I did photography. I did film, as Lynn-Ann mentioned. I did storytelling, but I didn't find my way back to art until I had a kid, and I was doing what most parents do, which is you just let the kid make a mess in your kitchen, and you just color alongside them and paint, and I was just doing that with her, and she was just fearless about what she was capable of, you know, and I was like, whoa, I mean, and I started, anyone who's been my friend through this, you've sat through all the posts, because I'm like, will you check me on this? Is this normal? I mean, this is something, right? Is this something? This is something. This is, like, because I just couldn't believe it. Like, I couldn't believe that like a little person who's never learned perspective could just draw in perspective and just do these incredible works of art. And I'm like, how did you learn to, I didn't pay for any classes. Why are you learning, how are you doing this? And she's like 2, 3, 4. I'm like, well, dude, that's crazy. So I thought for a long time that, wow, I guess there is such a thing as being innately gifted or being talented. It's not something that I'm familiar with because that's not in my lexicon. But I was looking at her, I'm like, oh no, maybe there's actually something to say for innate ability. But as I was getting ready for this talk, I was also thinking, and she didn't have any reason to think she couldn't do it. There was no internal critic that was telling her that she couldn't. So she just did. And she did it over and over and over again. And as close to a 5-year-old can get to 10,000 hours, she put in her time. You know what I mean? Like, she did the work. And so she was just getting better exponentially. And so I think, you know, it's not like it has to be either or. I think maybe both are at play. So it was addicting. I was getting, like, well, not addicted, but like, it was very, I had the word for it here. Let me see if I can find it. Well, it was just very, it was so inspiring to be next to such a creative force, right? And I wanted in on that action. So I signed up for my first art class since 4th grade, since I was 11. And I met this beautiful man named Sean Dahl at this studio in West Seattle. Props to Sean Dahl, who very kindly said, I see you, and I see that you want to do this, and I'll show you how. I'll show you the way. And so on that first night of my first class at Northwestern Caustic Studio, I signed up for my Instagram account. And because I wanted to see from day one, how long does it take for someone with 0 talents, and I mean 0 talents, how long does it take for them to be able to make something that's even remotely palatable? And like, I wanted to chart my progress as an artist. And not only that, I wanted to chart the progress of my art as it was coming into being, right? So when you look at my Instagram feed, you won't find a beautifully curated feed of finished works that are beautifully lit. You will see struggle, you will see process, you will see works that I've gone, no. And then I've just gone back in and painted over. Like, it's just all about, like, what does this process of becoming look like when you are a person like me who exists in perpetual draft form? So, so that is what my Instagram feed is. So, if you have nothing else to do in your life, you're welcome to scroll back through the 3,000 posts and see what I'm talking about, because you'll see for years, I was kindergarten basic. Basic. No skills, no talent, no ability, but a love of this experience of creating. in this way. And so that's what inspired me to do this. So, no talent, just a drive to do it. Here's some things. So one of the things that I love about being self-taught is that there's no expectation of perfection, right? I was classically trained in music for about 16 years. I went to New England Conservatory. My parents dropped a load on formal like classical education, and I said, ooh, this is not for me. Like creatively, it just was not, it was stifling and it was not expressive for me. I found it very stifling. And so a lot of the creative pursuits that I picked up after my conservatory experience were all self-taught. So I'm like, okay, there's no expectation. No one's gonna expect me to be able to create anything beautiful because I have no formal training. So let's go, let's see what's possible, right? So it's like pie in the sky. I don't have to worry about it. There's no inner critic because the inner critic has better things to comment on. I learn by doing is on my apron. It's just what inspires me to just get in there and make a mess. And I go where the energy is. So if I'm working on a particular project and there's a rabbit hole over here that I'm like, ooh, what's this over here? Like when I was working on these journal pages, like I lost interest in working big for a long time. So I just went all in on my journal pages. I'm like, ooh, let's see what happens if I go deep over here. This is where the energy is. This is what's exciting to me. And then I just follow that. I follow that path. And then there's my bin of ugly. I love my bin of ugly. I knew going in to starting to do art that I was going to make a whole lot of ugly. And I decided to embrace it. So I got this beautiful old repurposed bin from Earthwise salvage yard, and I filled it with a lot of work. And then I emptied it, and then I filled it again. I made a lot of ugly work. And I knew that every single one of those pieces that I was putting in the bin was getting me closer to where I wanted to go. So then COVID happens, and the pandemic hits. Luckily, I still had my writing practice. But with everything that was going on, with the grief, the fear, the acts of violence, I knew that my writing could only take me so far. And so I decided to see what will happen if I marry my art practice with my writing. And I tried to do that in a purposeful way. So that's when I came up with this idea to work in my sketchbook. And I had a bunch of sketchbooks. Now, a little side story about my sketchbooks is, like I said, I don't draw. But I have a fantasy that I'm the kind of person that draws. So I will go to like art stores and I'll find a gorgeous journal, and I want to be the kind of person whose journal is filled with all those rough sketches instead of photographs of all the places I've ever traveled, you know? And so I'm like, I could be this person, I could be this person. So I'll buy it, and then I'll open it up and I'll make a couple tentative marks, and I'm like, I'm not this person. I am not this person, and I'll put it on my shelf. So I have a whole shelf in my studio of abandoned sketchbooks. And so I grabbed the smallest one. I grabbed the smallest one, which was this size, like 5.5 by 8.5. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not good at sketchbooks because I'm terrified of the name. So I'm going to rebrand it, and I'm going to call it my art journal, because I have had a journal practice since I was 7. I know how to show up in a journal. Sketchbooks are terrifying. I can do journal. So I'm going to make a small painting every day and see what happens. All right, because also, like, the only thing I had to do, like, there's no internal, I knew, again, this is like the bin of ugly. All I have to do is show up in my studio, pay attention, paint my truth, and let go of the consequences. That's all I have to do. Okay, so this wasn't my first one, but I call this my breakthrough journal, and I'm gonna pass this around. And you can look through, yeah, see, this is the best drawing I could do of the room I was in at the time. So you'll see, like, you know, I am awesome. But what ended up happening in this one, and you can sort of, the pages stick together a little bit, don't worry, like, just open them up, but here's what happened. I think I was working on a piece, and I was working on a painting, and then I would, like, wipe off the excess paint on this page. And then I was working on the painting and wipe off the excess paint. And then at the end of the day, I liked this much more than the painting that I was working on. And it was the first time that I broke away from the edges. You know what I mean? Like the first time I realized, oh, I don't have to cover a whole page. I can just, like, that's so cool. It was like a free form. So that's where these guys came from. Okay, so let's see. Okay, one thing you should know is on here, afterwards, you're more than welcome to come up. All I have on this is my these videos, but I have these little videos of making some of the works that are up here. And it comes about very fast. Some of my favorite works happen in like maybe 6 or 7 strokes, and then it's done. So I have a bunch of time-lapse videos that I also started posting on Facebook. I think this is the kind of stuff that caught Lynn Ann's eye, if you know what I mean. So yeah, you're welcome to come up here and look at those afterwards, because they're there. Okay, so we're getting towards the end here, I promise. What are some of the things that my journal pages taught me? It clarified my likes and my dislikes. Boiled down to its essence, for me, making art is just an endless series of yes-no questions, right? More of this, less of this. I like this, I don't like this. Yes, no, yes, no. Like, it's until, from the first stroke all the way up until the end. So, as a result of doing this daily repetition, smaller, and having pieces that are coming about really quickly, it makes me have to be much, I have to be much quicker about noticing, like, you know, like what my yeses and nos are. It comes much more fluidly, it's much more intuitive, and as a result, it's spilling over. I'm clearer and more decisive, and it's spilling over into my larger works. I'm becoming much more efficient about what I like, what I don't like, what I want, what I don't, and it's also spilling over into my life as I get clearer about what I like and what I don't like. And so, but it's helpful, you know, because it's showing me to me, and basically giving my brain more of what it likes. Because they come about so quickly, there's no room for judgment. My inner critic, if it existed, just doesn't really have much time to sort of show up, because they evolve very quickly. It forces me to be attentive, especially like in terms of paying attention to the pieces as it's unfolding right in front of me. It forces me to be in the present, because it evolves very quickly and the end happens very fast. And I always know, I'm like, oh, I think that's it. And if I'm smart, I'll step back and I'll put down my tool and I'll let it be. Even if there's something that I want to, but when I'm not smart, and it's like about 25-75 now. Like when I'm not smart, I'll go like, I just want to punch up that red a little bit, or I just want to go in and add a little line there, and I'll go and I'll just do it. I'll just do it. No one will even know. I'll just go in and just add it, just after it's an afterthought, and then it's gone. It's gone. And everything that was coming intuitively, now that toggle switch has flipped, and now I'm up in my head, and my mind is trying to muscle its way back to that finish line, but that finish line is long gone. So either I just need to let it go, or I transition it into something else. Usually I have to put it away for the day because I'm so mad at myself that I didn't listen to my gut. But like learning how to listen to my gut has been a huge, huge lesson for me. I'm much more efficient when I'm in the studio. I used to need a full day in order to feel like, yes, I'm a full-time artist. I did my job today, very good, you know what I mean? Like, but now I just need 20 minutes. And if 20 minutes is all I have before I'm running out the door, that's all I need to just instinctively grab some colors that are speaking to me that day, squeeze them out, mix them, and see what happens. So 20 minutes is enough. I always prefer a full day, but 20 minutes is enough. And the other thing about these journal pages is that they're pages. It's paper, and they're tiny. And so, as opposed to the large pieces on wood panels, that are so expensive, just the panels alone, that like makes me feel like the painting needs to earn its right to exist, right? But it's so liberating to be able to work on paper. So all of these benefits, like it feeds my beginner's brain, fun to learn by doing. But then there's the addition of this book that I found. I don't know if any of you have seen this. Oh, and if you haven't, I'm gonna be so excited. You have? Oh my gosh. This book, it's a sublime mix of art and science. So, and that book is, I think, doing for me now what Artist Way did for my writing, right? So I already have this journal practice, I'm already making these pages, but now all of a sudden they're coming at me with so much science and so much research in this multidisciplinary field that is all about like the measurable benefits to your brain, body, and behavior when you engage regularly, not daily, just regularly in the arts or aesthetics, whether it's making or beholding. Oh, hi. Making or beholding. So like they are very, the field is so vast. Let me see. Yeah, and the thing is, like with the advances that we have in technology now, it's possible to get the physiological read on the effects that are happening to your body. So they're able to really dive in and look at not only the whole study of this field of study about happiness, but they've deepened into looking at flourishing and what does flourishing look like. And some of the qualities of flourishing is being in touch with yourself and caring about the welfare of others and living an authentic and full life and doing this thing that I try to talk to my kid about, which is craving the life you have. My kid is a supreme capitalist, and so that's been a fun one to really try to work on. It's about cultivating curiosity and wonder and awe. Like if you have curiosity, the thing about art that's so lovely is that you see a piece and you're drawn to it, and you move in closer, and you wonder why. What is it about this piece that's speaking to me? I wonder what, and especially with abstract art, I find, personally, there's so much room for you to see yourself reflected back at you, right? It's like a Rorschach test, almost, right? And so it teaches you so much about yourself. And so that's curiosity, and wonder is taking a step back and adding in an element of surprise to that. And then awe is sort of, it's transcendent. They're all sort of a kind, but orders of magnitude different. But awe really sort of, it makes you feel like you're part of something much bigger than yourself. And it takes something that takes your breath away and moves you to tears and just sort of really changes your perspective on life. So these are all aspects of flourishing. And one of the things that the book posits is that just being able to participate and partake in art, whether it's the making of it, even if you're terrible, like I was for years, but that doesn't even matter. It's just the act of doing things that awaken your senses, make you feel alive, make you feel good. They talk all about the brain science behind it, and they do it beautifully. The more we can do this, the more we can show up and do these activities that bring us joy and do them with intention, like everyone benefits. Everybody benefits. So that's the nuts and bolts of what I had to share. Yeah, so yes?
So what is your medium? Are you using oil?
For these little pieces, I'm doing acrylic. So these are all acrylic. I don't paint with brushes. I use like squeegees and palette knives. I like playing with palette knives because I don't use palette knives in my bigger paintings, so it's an opportunity for me to experiment and play. And they're fluid. They're not the super fluid, but they're not heavy body. So I like the transparency. I like being able to see. It's also the same. Yep, yep, yeah, fluid acrylics, yes. Oh yeah, okay, that's perfect. It's like I planted you, Ellen. Okay, does anyone see anything in that piece? Do you see anything? Yeah, the one all the way on the end there underneath my name. I mean, there's obviously a grid and there's squares. So I'll tell you, this is one of the things that came about from experimental play. And in that particular piece is two things. How many colors can I mix from one red, one yellow, and one blue? The other thing is, with all other things being equal, so there's no hierarchy, like all other design elements being equal, can I make a painting using just temperature alone? So all of the folks who are wearing glasses, you are at an extreme advantage because you can do what I do in the morning, which is you can just take off your glasses and look at it. What the piece is called, I'll tell you, is hashtag. So, or people of my generation, what we call the pound sign or the number sign. And so the idea was, like, it was pixelated. I made it during COVID. I was thinking about how in our siloed times, and we're all in isolation, but a lot of us used hashtags to find each other and build community and galvanize movements. So that's why it's pixelated, and that's why it's a hashtag. Anyone not be able to see it? Oh, cool. Okay. Awesome. Yes?
Sometimes when you are posting stuff, you say, oh, go back and look at it over and it wasn't working and then we're reworking it. How do you decide it's not working? And how do you decide it's worthy of reworking?
Okay, that's a great question. So the question was, so a lot of times if folks follow me on Instagram, they'll know that a lot of times I might take a painting that's even exhibited before and it's no longer speaking to me. It's no longer working. When I made it, it was the best thing I could do, but now, meh. And so the thing is, if it's in my studio, like I have to love it enough to be able to exhibit again. And sometimes I just fall out of love with a piece. And so if that happens, then it goes back up on my studio wall, and I just go back to work on it. And I am a person who, I like all of my bigger pieces, they have a lot of history in them. If you go closer, the closer you get, the more you see in them. And sometimes that's because there's several existing paintings underneath there that are just sort of all playing a part on the surface in the end. But so if a painting is no longer interesting to me, if it no longer excites me, if it no longer speaks to me, it's just a very intuitive thing. That's when I just sort of put it back up on the wall and I go to work on it. And then I know it's done when there's nothing that needs to be resolved. There's nothing that's pulling my attention. There's no pokey parts that are a little bit too loud. So it's very intuitive, and it's the kind of muscle that I feel like has gotten refined as I've worked more on my journal pages, and I've gotten clear about what my yeses and nos are. Does that make
Is it generally pieces that you have exhibited?
Not necessarily. Sometimes they're pieces that I took as far as I could go, and I like them okay, but there's something about them that's not quite right, and I don't know how to fix it. And I've tried a couple of different things, and it hasn't worked. And I don't generally like paint over it like white and then keep going. Like I just keep working with it, and but maybe I'll flip it upside down, and then I'll just go to town on it and just turn it into something else. I just sold a piece actually that was hilarious. I didn't see this until I flipped it over. It was a long skinny piece. I just sold it a couple of weeks ago, and I turned it upside down, and I realized that it had 3 different titles, 3 different serial numbers, and it was 3 different years written on the back. So when I sold it to him, I'm like, congratulations, you just got a 3-in-1, So, but it was so hilarious because I'm like, oh, I remember that title. Oh yeah, that was not a very good painting. Yeah, so yes.
You're so wonderfully eloquent about the power of play, sticking close to your heart, and listening, and the process. And I'm so glad you have the distance with your inner critic. Could use some tips on that, because I wonder what happens when you start to exhibit.
Right.
And you're in the art world. Does that critic start to talk a little bit again, or can you really display your art, put it out for sale, and keep that sense of inner joy and I don't really care what happens?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. That's a beautiful question. I I don't know if it's an inner critic, but sometimes I'll be exhibiting work. Kind of similar to what Margaret was saying. Sometimes I'll exhibit a work like at a gallery that I'm at, and I'll be working a shift, and I'll look at it and I'll go, no, that's not done, or I thought it was better than it is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's an inner critic though, because it's not telling. Like, I think it's just my voice letting me know. I'm like, yeah, that piece isn't as done as it was.
It's more like when you put your work out. For me, it's like having kids on display.
Yeah.
And how do you feel when nobody loves my kid? You know,
Oh.
I love you, but nobody is responding in a way that, you know, or it hasn't sold.
Yeah.
Do you have any of that?
No, because, but here's the thing. I've also been doing it long enough that what I love is my work eventually finds its way to the people who, it all works out. The people who like, people will find it. Like, the right person will find the piece and it'll really speak to them and it'll find a home. So I have some works in my house that I haven't sold in 5-6 years. Oh, and like my mother-in-law, like, it hurts her heart because like one of them is her favorite piece. Like, how is this still in your house? How have you not sold this piece yet? I'm like, the right person hasn't come along, but they'll come. I'm not worried about it, you know. Like, so, and I really believe that to be true. Like, if I feel like I can stand behind a piece, it'll find a home. So yeah. So, but sometimes it takes a long time. Yeah, but I'm not like I'm surprised at some of the pieces that sold, honestly, and I'm not worried about the rest of them. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I'm not sure that's helpful though. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Did you have your hand up? No. Okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that Robert Motherwell revised his work constantly. He would show it, and then he would get it back in the studio, and he would revise it, and it was like an established piece.
Mm-hmm.
And he reserved the right to change his mind. And I just read an article recently about that, and I was like, oh, I did not know that. Like, for him, I thought, oh, he probably just comes up with this brilliance, and then it becomes a fact, and then it goes out into the world, and it never changes.
That's brilliant.
He constantly changed his work. Apparently, I didn't know that.
That's so cool. I mean, that's part of what I mean by being a perpetual draft person. I exist in perpetual draft state, and so at any moment I can take a piece and go, no, it's not there. Yep.
What pieces do you decide to write on?
I write on all my work, except these guys they're hit or miss, the journals, but in just about all the rest of them, I've written on them. Usually, because I come into the studio after writing in my journal. So sometimes there's a phrase that's lingering that I was really thinking about in my journal that I'll write. Sometimes I'm listening to music and there's lyrics that'll just sort of like come out, that'll show up in my work. Or I'm listening to a podcast and there's just a turn of phrase that someone's just saying that's just beautiful. I write it in there. I won't be able to read it in a couple of days, but it's in there. You know what I mean? Like this piece on the second piece in, there's a whole section in there. A dear friend of mine from college passed away unexpectedly, and so I just took an awl and I just scratched into the surface my memories of my time with him. You know what I mean? Knowing that it's just like they're like time capsules. My paintings, you know, they capture my truth that I was living in the days that it took for me to make it, and it's words and it's images. There's also a letter in there from my mom when I was in boarding school. Like you can't really see it, but it's up here. Come closer, you'll be able to see it. You'll see my mom's handwriting. Like when I was in boarding school, she wrote me a lot of letters, and I printed them out on silk and I embedded them into my works. And so, I mean, there's all sorts of things that are like whatever's on my mind as I'm making the works, they all gets folded into it. Yes, Ellen. Yeah. You know what? I have. People have asked me if I would consider it. And I'm still thinking about it. I mean, honestly, my gut says no. My gut says I love tiny paintings with mega impact. You know what I mean? Like they're like pow with color or just the form of it. And I like large pieces that are intimate and that make you want to come closer and look at it more deeply, like that they'll welcome you in. So I think that's just how I'm wired. I think a large piece that's like this, I mean, maybe it could work, but I love having them as tiny little, like, color nuggets. Yep, yep. So that's, yeah. Yes, Amy.
Can you talk about the ritual of like how you set up your ritual with maybe especially with your writing? Like, do you listen to music? Do you have tea? Do you have a space you always go to, or how do you do it?
I do have a corner. I have a corner couch. You know when it's like a sectional couch, but it's the corner section, so it's all comfy and cozy. Right now, I have my electric blanket going. I have a little tray next to me. I have tea. I'll have tea in the morning. It's a little bit funky because I have a kid and I have to sort of work around her breakfast and stuff like that. So in my dream, what I tell people is I roll out of bed and before I say anything to anyone, I sit down and I write. But that's true maybe 7% of the time. So I'm kind of working around, getting breakfast ready and all that kind of stuff. But still, once everyone's out of the house, I'll sit down, I write. Then I actually, I just put down my journal and sitting right where I am, I'll meditate. So meditation is part of my ritual as well. And then after that, and again, it's like for however long I want. So I used to be very regimented of it has to be this much, and I'm trying to up it. So I've gone from 10 to 15. Now I'm at 25. You know, I was like, who am I racing? You know, and so I'm just like, I'll just sit here and I'll just be until I'm ready to move on to the next part of my day, and then I'll go into the studio, and I'll start on the pages because it's quick and easy, right? This acrylic, and it's and I'll just get that going, and then that's early in the morning. And then I sort of, and I'll break for an early lunch, and after lunch I'll go for a walk. So the walk is also part of it. So, because if I don't go for a walk after lunch, that's the other optional ritual is nap, you know? And so usually that's how it goes. But I have a little corner, and yeah, that's where I sit. My journal lives there and never leaves. My journal is so boring. People are like, are you ever worried that anyone's going to read your journal? I'm like, one, you're welcome to try because my handwriting is crap. So no one can read it anyway. And then also, it's incredibly boring. So yeah, so it just lives there. It's just so boring. I never read my pages again. There's no way. Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you. Yes, Julie.
When you're doing your morning pages,
Mhm.
at what point do you discard them, or do you keep them?
Oh, help me. I've kept them. You would not believe just my journals from COVID alone. It's a thing. It's the closest thing to making me look like a hoarder. The thing that's awesome, though, that's hilarious, is all the different handwritings I've gone through the years. There's some really embarrassing handwritings. But, yeah, I keep them. But I also, what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start doing art in them. I'm just going to start painting in them, and they're going to become little art books. I'm going to tear them up. I'm going to cut into them. Because no one's going to read them again. So I'm just going to, but I have the background there. I have the writing. So that's what I like to build on anyway. So I'm just going to start painting in them and turn them into little books. Yeah. In the moment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And I'm like that. I'm like that almost to a fault with books and with movies. Like, I'll watch a movie and then not realize until about like 2/3 of the way, oh, I know how this ends. I've seen this one already, you know what I mean? Because I'm like I'm just in it like in the moment. Or like TV shows, I'll forget. Like when the next season comes, I'll totally forget like what happened last season. I don't even remember. Yeah, so I'm very in the moment, chronically. Any other questions? Oh, look at that. We're doing good on time. I can set up my computer here so that if you want to look at any of the time-lapse videos, you can come and double-click on it. I don't know where the journal is, but if you didn't get it, oh, yeah. So if you feel free to just pass it around and keep looking. Is there anything else that we need to do before closing out? Oh, thank you. Thank you.